So hello everyone. I know you've been waiting for this webinar. We have invited industry experts to discuss the situation we have now, find some solutions for today and think of possible development of this pandemic situation from different points of view. But before we do that, please type something so I could see that you hear me. So yes, I can see that sound is on. So okay guys, actually it's our second webinar where we discuss the situation caused by COVID-19. The aim of UTIConnect webinars is to connect our experts from all over the world to hear about the situation from the source, to deliver some message of support and to share experience of how to act in this difficult time. And last time it was a webinar with Nigel Sage from the Netherlands, Inga Mihaili from Israel, Alessandro Mortelli from Italy, Tatiana Struk and Anna Ivanchenko from Ukraine. And you know, it was some open agenda informal meeting, so we had an opportunity to share any information, emotions and feelings we wanted to share. It was nice to see our UT campers safe, optimistic and good looking though. You can find the link in the chat, and if you're watching the recorded video, you may find it in description or comments below. And of course, you can visit our YouTube channel to find more content. We have published all our UTIConnect 2019 speeches ahead of our plan to support you during this isolation period, and we are aimed to make more online meetings. And today's meeting is going to be hosted by me, Irina Vizer, UTIConnect CMO. And it's time to introduce our speakers. And so today we will analyze situation with our translation industry researcher Konstantin Dranch, discuss useful tips and some solutions from CEO perspective with Leonid Glazychev, CEO of Logos IT, and think of marketing strategies and communication with Sabina Jasinska, international marketing leader. So today we have people from USA, Poland, France and Ukraine in the room. It could be in some, some bar joke here. It's when like a CEO and a researcher and a marketing consultant are entering the bar and wait, all bars are closed now because it's quarantine. So I am showing you all our heroes now. Those are us. Yes, so I will give, so the agenda for today is that I will give 10 minutes for some kickoff speech to each expert, and then we can maybe have some questions and answer session for each. And of course at the end we will have some time to ask questions to our experts too, so that all of them will be ready to maybe have some answers and to your maybe some tricky questions. So the first one will be Konstantin Dranch. So I am switching to Kostya.
Hello.
Yes. So, Kostya, you have your time, and I know you wanted to show some screen, to show some slides. So, you can start showing them.
Thank you, Irina. All right. I hope everyone is very comfortable. They asked me to analyze the situation a little bit and prepare a few slides, which I've done. Let's jump in the information. What's there? Most of you are probably in a situation where they don't know what's going to happen. The dominating mood about this pandemic and the upcoming economic recession is uncertainty. So I hope I can help you deal with the uncertainty a little bit and provide the figures and findings that I have assembled over the last couple of weeks. Every researcher in the industry is now working on COVID. Every marketer is working on COVID. And if you're not working on COVID, or if you're not adding the viral layers to what you do, it's probably coming up. So let me show you what I have. And let me know if you can see my screen. Right, the entire screen. Okay, I'd like to see in the live comments if you can see my screen. You probably can. Right. Okay, now I don't see the comments, I just see my screen. Let's go from here. First of all, let's see what was the impact on translation companies. I'm working with data collected by language industry associations, and they have surveyed close to 600 LSPs and freelancers to this day, which we analyzed over the weekend and got about this kind of information. So most of the respondents to the SNAP survey expect their businesses to decrease, and especially smaller companies, more than half of freelancers and smaller companies expect their business to decrease by more than 30% in 2020. So it's probably going to be bad, and it's going to be especially bad for small companies. I think the reason is because small companies and freelancers, they typically work with small and medium businesses as clients, and the small and medium businesses are very flexible. So the moment they see problems coming, they start switching off non-primary costs, they start optimizing. So those who work with small clients, who have a short chain of command, probably see a decrease already now. Now, bigger companies and LSPs who work with the enterprise, they have a little bit of time, because it's difficult to ramp down this massive operations and just turn them off overnight. Of course, some of this is going to happen, but not with the same speed, not on the same scale as with small business. So larger translation companies are going to be affected less. Now, there are companies and freelancers that feel that right now there's much more volume coming in, and they are a minority. Some of this is crisis communications, temporary stuff which is coming on because the government hasn't to announce a quarantine, because they have to translate it for everyone, because they have some medical notes. There was a particular interesting thing, like wills. Translation for wills is now a business. So specialists in that kind of work are seeing a big uptick. And there are other segments that, of course, see this increase. And chances are you're in a segment, or you're working with a segment which is dropping, but maybe 1 in 10 people or 1 in 10 clients will deliver significantly larger volumes. If you want to contribute to this survey, there is a link at the bottom. I've shortened it so it's easy to read. It's tinyurl.com/EUTC-CV19, and the detailed results of this survey will be disclosed in a webinar by EUTC on the 17th of April. The EUTC will invite representatives of the European Union and the European Commission to take part, and maybe barrage them with questions. How can we support the language industry in these uncertain times? Maybe some tax cuts, maybe some bridge credits, and so on. Whatever it takes to keep companies afloat, keeps the jobs from disappearing. Typically, when you see a downturn in the business, you don't fire people right away, but when it's really, really bad, you start firing many of them. Now, I'm going to focus my presentation here. I have 3 or 4 slides more to go on the opportunities, and the obvious opportunity is now online events. So many webinars. this week, I think like 6 or 7 webinars that are relevant to localization, maybe more. Those that run marketing programs, they're now switching the budgets to run webinars, maybe multilingual webinars, and those who typically run on-site meetings, especially I don't know, Council of Europe administration, they have to run their meetings, so they can't completely cancel them. If it's a legislative process, these meetings have to be multilingual. So now that they become online. And the business which is appearing is interpreting for these online meetings through Zoom, Interpretify, Kudo, or which other platform that you use. So companies can provide interpreters, they can resell the platform. And what's more important, because these organizations, they don't have necessary experience running online events, not like Irina with UTIC. They need help. They need to know which button to press, how to select the moderator, how to pass the word around, how to share documents. So this online facilitation, supporting the organizers, supporting the participants is becoming a business. Maybe not as big a business as interpreting, which is now almost completely dead, but significant, right? Because there are still meetings that need to be done. And if you're in interpreting, if this is the segment for you, you probably can try to reposition yourself and help them with Zoom, Interpretify, Kudo, whatever platform, Speakers, Voiceboxer, whichever you prefer, so that they can put these meetings in practice. And there's an example. Naomi, she is a specialist in interpreting, so she's seeing now more business than ever. If you're in here, there's a useful resource just published by AIAC, which is a guidance for interpreting during the pandemic times. It's a large document, and it can help you run what you're doing according to some guidelines and professionalize your work. Second idea that I've noticed is telemedicine. Now, you still need doctors. They're all busy with treating coronavirus patients. If you're a mother, if you're a father, and you have children, you probably don't want to take them to a hospital because of the risk of the infection, because of the problems there. So telemedicine is becoming a thing. Look at the increase in popularity. It's just Google Trends graph, but there are financial graphs. Telemedicine is taking off. On some level, it's been a very small market before, but the consumer habits are changing. But perhaps this virus can transform this, and eventually you can present language services with doctors. Maybe a Chinese doctor who's a specialist in coronavirus could consult Western patients with interpreting provided by you. So this is the business opportunity. Few companies have jumped onto this, and it will take some time. It requires licenses, it requires compliance to HIPAA in the United States and so on. So it's not an easy business, but it's probably going to see an uptick. More sectors, clients from sectors such as cloud infrastructure are seeing a huge increase in business, like Microsoft with Azure, Amazon, AWS, all the others, because we rely on cloud infrastructure much more during this crisis. Entertainment is seeing an uptick. Medical translations and clinical trials are seeing an uptick. For some reason, luxury seeing an uptick, and e-learning. So these sectors, if you work with them, if you have entry to them, potentially you'll be more resilient during the crisis. Or if you are not having access to those sectors, perhaps you can focus your efforts right now before 100 other people does and becomes too competitive. Because there'll be less money in the economy, many buyers will want to cut costs, and they'll probably switch from translation to post-editing. They'll switch from expensive software to cheaper software. They'll probably use easy-to-access online shops for translation instead of premium boutiques. So if you have a cheaper offering, perhaps this might be a good proposition. Not quite clear yet, but this is one of the options where it could go. One more thing, big organizations that have procurement procedures that usually take a year, 6 months of time for a vendor to go through them. Now, relaxing these procedures a little bit. So if there is something that your buyer really needs, now is the time when they can buy it out of turn without this long procedure, because it's extraordinary time and they need it right now. So if your sales is working, this is an opportunity you can capitalize upon. Finally, crisis communications is still going on. Broadcasting, government, public service announcement. This is an area where there's a temporary small uptick in translations. Final advice is the dash for cash. Those companies, those businessmen who have accumulated a lot of resources in liquid money, they'll be in a very good position throughout this crisis. It's not the first crisis. Most of the translation companies have seen 2, 3, 4. Leonid, I don't know how many you've seen, maybe 5 or 10 during their professional life. As usual, everything will become less expensive. Labor will become less expensive because of competition. Good specialists in AI will become less expensive. Companies might face very difficult circumstances, and others will be able to acquire those companies at a very low price. I don't know, properties will become less expensive. So there'll be a period where people who have liquid assets available will have many options for them. So just look at this. In the last month, major corporations went to borrow a lot of money to sustain their operations, but also to have this flexibility to acquire whoever they want. So if someone goes under, they'll be purchased. So during this crisis, there'll be a wave of mergers and acquisitions at conditions which are dictated by the buyer. That's about it that I wanted to say. I also have the results of the survey of the Russian market, but probably some for this webinar. Let me pass on the word to the next speaker. Leonid, I guess that's for you. Irina? It's like I'm alone with you guys.
No, you're not alone. That's okay now. So of course we have some questions. We have questions. Why luxury sector? Why is it in winning category now?
I heard it from a few companies. I don't know yet why. Interesting, right?
So you didn't know why? You don't have any?
I don't know yet, but I'm looking.
So now what's about gaming industry? Because I've heard
it's going quite well, depending.
Okay.
If there is less money around, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay this way. But for example, TransPerfect has launched a new proposition just yesterday for media entertainment. They are rolling out a new version of their subtitling and dubbing studio, and they're rolling out an academy to train subtitlers and dubbing specialists on the supply side, on the buyer side. So there's definitely some movement there.
Okay, thank you. So we will have our questions and answers session at the end, and our next speaker is Leonid Glazychev. So see you, Kostya.
Hello everyone, once again, good afternoon.
So just wait a minute, Leonid, because I can hear you, but I can't see you now. So let's check one more time. Can you please just enter the webinar room again?
Okay,
so
just a moment.
Just a moment, okay. So we are waiting for Leonid. So Kostya. Yes, and just a minute. Oh, that's okay now.
Perfect.
So hello.
Hello everyone, and let it be the worst of our nightmares, just having to re-enter. And if you're wondering why am I wearing this funny Irish hat, I just want to remind you that it's one of my favorite times That is between St. Patrick's Day on March 17th and the day of our industry, actually the April Fool's Day, which is tomorrow. So once again, greetings from our isolation on this side of the pool. And I'm going to talk about an absolutely different thing because Konstantin has prepared the stage. And he talked about the industries that are temporarily winning, potential losses, potential rates going down, and all that stuff. Well, honestly, I'm going to tell you that all of this is temporary. It's not as important as it might seem, and you shouldn't pay that much attention to the instantaneous trends. First of all, let's think of it. The whole thing has just started for all the major parts of Europe or the United States or other parts of the world. It's only our colleagues in Asia who have experienced this thing for months. So we do not know yet. The whole thing is just starting. And as it always happens with the economy, there is a certain delay. And the bigger the company is, the bigger the delay is. That's exactly what always happens. So at the moment, whatever statistics you've got, it's temporary and it's extremely unreliable. Things will change in the coming weeks. At the moment, we just communicated before this webinar, so everybody is sitting at home, everybody is confined to home. Sabina will tell her story. She's returned from London, so she's in complete isolation for 2 weeks. So this is a new situation, and how should we approach it? So first of all, let's think of it. We are not the worst people off in this situation. Most of us have skills. Most of us are not working in, say, the hospitality business or the restaurant business or other businesses that are simply closed. Means nada. Your income is zero. In our case, we're considerably more diversified and we can work from home, unlike all of these guys and many other people. Which means that first, we should look at alternatives. I do not believe in short-term resolutions. That is, of course, there are a number of, say, translations going on in, say, the particular COVID-19 related areas or some emergency broadcast or whatever, or just online translation for all those meetings taking place on all the meeting platforms. But this is kind of temporary. This is not a permanent thing. This is just a patch. What we can do is just look at other opportunities. And this is the perfect time to do that because you're sitting at home. Well, at least most of you. You have more time because you're not going to work, you're not going on business trips, you're not busily boarding a plane to interpret at some conference half a world away. Which means you have time and you should put it to good use. And this is exactly when you think of things you like or you love about your hobbies, because sometimes a hobby can actually become your next moneymaker. Maybe you could start something. Maybe you could just learn something, but just do not waste your time on learning how to use another CAD tool or something. It's just a minor thing and it will not help you. What you need to do is make sure that you look around and think about your other strengths. Maybe you had a technical background. Maybe you're interested in design or in desktop publishing or in web publishing, or maybe you can try and learn something deeper. So that's the first thing. Try to figure out where your real strengths are. apart from your traditional area, like translation or interpretation. Once again, for interpreters, if you have less work, and of course, many of you have suffered dramatically, remember, you can translate using CAT tools, you can translate online, and you can find other areas that you know pretty well. Maybe it's a subject matter area or something. So that's the first thing. We're not the worst off. Second, this will pass. Let's not exaggerate. At the moment, actually, the media are full, I mean, let alone social networks, of all the apocalyptic kind of dystopian forecasts. As a person who's passed through multiple economic crises, I'll tell you all of this is, of course, untrue. Stay calm. Nothing really tragic will happen to the economy. We'll have several bad months, but after each crisis, people actually get, well, whoever stays alive, actually get more resilient. They've got initial energy, a kind of boost after each crisis, and start rebuilding whatever they've lost with considerably more vigor and enthusiasm than they used to. It's a kind of a revitalization period. So actually, we'll get back to normal much faster than anyone can think. In reality, just think of that, like in a computer game. Okay, we're frozen or semi-frozen for a couple of months. But after that, we can actually continue to live normally. Of course, there'll be a lot of those minor things, or minor, of course, I'm putting it in big quotation marks, like some companies using their free capital to purchase something. There'll be mergers and acquisitions, as Konstantin mentioned. But in reality, the world economy will survive. It's not that the next generation will still carry the burden. It's all BS. So do not let people scare you. Finally, the most important part, and that's exactly what we're telling all of our employees. At the moment, we have approximately 150 people working from home from multiple offices. Excuse me. But this is not COVID. It's just the early morning here. But first of all, good signs. Our office in China is back to work. They had to sit at home for 2 months, but now they're working again. Our office in Korea is back to work, and they're not only going to the office, they are already meeting clients at their places of business. So life is getting back to normal. Of course, they have to attend all these meetings wearing masks so that they make sure that no infection is passed, but life is getting back. And it will get back for all of us who are currently sitting at home, limited to only go into a single grocery store that's closest to our home and all that stuff. So the last and probably the most important part, and that's exactly what we were communicating to our employees whom we send home and they're working from home now. Use this time wisely. Try to improve. Try to live better, because you are not spending time going to work. Even if you've got less work than usual, you can use this time well. So first of all, eat well. Because there are no restaurants, do not get involved with this takeout business. Just cook your own food. That's actually a great thing. First of all, it has an overall calming effect on your psycho. Second, you'll become a better cook. And third, you have an incredible opportunity to eat healthy food. Second, do not drink, because you relax, You're sitting at home, you're watching TV in the evening, and you tend to drink more than usual. Just do not do that. Third, try to make your life look normal. That is, you get up in the morning, just imitate a regular workday at more or less the same time, say 9 or 10 a.m., whatever is working best for you. You should be dressed normally. Do not sit behind your computer in the bathrobe. I know no one will see you, but you'll feel too relaxed. You'll not feel like it's a work atmosphere. So just imitate a normal work day. So you dress up normally, you have your cup of coffee, and you start doing something, either exploring opportunities or learning something or just working. Do not relax. This is important, not just for you to keep sane and functional and productive, but also for whoever else you are confined at your home with. Because believe me, it's if you are still wearing a bathrobe, if you still haven't showered by the middle of the day, it's not a great sight for anyone you have at home, whether it's your girlfriend or boyfriend or your wife or husband or even your parents. They do not want to see it. It's unpleasant. So what you do is just keep the whole thing running. Make sure that everything is normal at your home. So you exercise, you go outside if you can and try to walk or run or whatever, even if it's around your house or your block. You eat well, you keep the same work hours, you keep yourself occupied, you do not drink more than you usually do in the evening, you do not relax, you do not wear a bathrobe, and you try to enjoy the small things that you still can. Say, I'm making my morning cup of espresso, and I'm savoring it. I'm thinking, okay, the energy flows into my body, I'm sipping it gradually, and it works. When you're showering, think of showering off and rinsing off all the bad things, all the bad emotions. And the last but not the least, guys, during these times, one of the worst disturbing factors that you have are the social networks. Do not spend more than 15 minutes on social networks per day. Most of the fake news, most of the weird rumors are spread that way. They make you anxious. You do not get any real knowledge. If you want some news and they're extremely boring, just go online or watch the news, whatever, for no more than 15 minutes. So a half hour, 15 minutes for social networks, 15 minutes for the news should be it. Everything else you watch or read should be either professional or entertaining. Just do not involve in this panic. Plus, communicate more. Nowadays, we have those unique opportunities of communicating online and talking to whoever else we know across the world. Use this time for FaceTime, not for 100 stupid and emotional comments in a particular chat. Just do not waste yourself. Do not get over anxious. Use this to feel better. And one thing that I want to share with you is, well, I mean, it's of course a simple thing, but just I'll share the screen for a moment. The Economist had this picture. Okay. Had this picture on the cover. Okay. That's a gloomy outlook. That's not true. That's just a very nice cover. It's ironic. It's very typical British dark humor. But in reality, this is not what's going to happen. So we will be fine. We will survive. We will diversify. We will learn new skills. We will keep healthy, and we will use this time for self-improvement. And do not forget to find some fun in life. That's my conclusion. Just put on a funny hat, celebrate the April Fool's Day tomorrow, and use all the other opportunities to enjoy life and find small pleasures and improve both your health and your mental condition. Stay sane and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonid. And I think we will have our next speaker, and then all of us will have some time to answer the questions. So please meet Sabina here. Bye, Leonid.
Thank you, Irina, for inviting me today. Hello, everyone, from my strict quarantine in Warsaw, Poland. So yes, those are fascinating times for marketing. And as Kostya mentioned, every marketer around the world is now working on a COVID-19 campaign, including myself. So today I would like to share with you a few tips on how to engage with your audiences, both internal and external, and a few best practices that we are learning basically every day. So first of all, I think the most important thing is that we all need to be very creative, because sending emails and saying that we're open are just not enough anymore, unless of course you are a pharmacy or you deliver pizza. Otherwise, just be more creative than that. Second thing, we have to be really up to date and with the current events, because the situation is changing so dynamically in the country where we live in, as well as in the countries where our clients operate. So we really need to be up to date with what's happening, because whatever brilliant idea we had a week ago might not be that great next week. Also, we need to communicate, and we just heard that we need to communicate and even over-communicate. And of course, our clients are exactly experiencing the same. So we're the best positioned in localization industry, in communication industry in general, to help our clients overcome those challenges. And finally, we need to be mindful of everyone's time. And Accenture calls it getting attention of our clients in those moments within moments. But now we're competing for that precious time and for that attention even more than before, because we're competing with their kids and with their dogs, as well as the million free classes that are being offered online, all the best museums in the world offering their virtual tours, and the best universities offering free classes. So how can we compete with that amount, with the entire world? So Kostya mentioned webinars. Yes, a webinar is a brilliant idea. But yesterday I listened to a webinar by Salesforce. And you know who was invited there? Sheryl Crow, who actually sang a few songs at the end. So now our webinars are also competing with Salesforce. So we really need to be extra creative and hyper relevant and really up to date if we want to engage our clients. So here I prepared a few tips on what to avoid and also what best practices are. So the things, of course, to avoid: don't just say that you are working from home and that you are open, because we're all working from home. So that's this is obvious. Second, don't send the same message you've been sending always, such as, I represent this company, those are my services, call me if you are interested, because that didn't work even 2 months ago. And even so now, it will be more difficult to get that attention. Also, don't engage in any negative conversation. I got a few emails from prospects recently, so people I don't even have any relationship with, who were asking me what my company is doing in the current situation, what are the policies that we are implementing. And I thought this is a great question, but I talk about the virus so many times per day with everyone, including my friends and family. I don't feel like engaging again in that conversation with someone I don't even know. It doesn't bring me any value. And also be very careful with all the automated messages that you have in your marketing systems. We're still getting those messages that are obviously automated and that nobody had time to review. So think about it. Sky TV was sending, even last week, some messages about the live sport events that they were streaming. But what sports events? What life? I mean, this is not even happening anymore now. And if you think about it, governments are closing borders within 24 hours. Businesses are sending computers to every employee within 48 hours. And we cannot really have time to look into our automated messages, and really we should pay attention to that. So the things that we should be doing and that are working, and we all know that because we're all consumers here, we're all customers, and we all get those messages. So first of all, I see one very important trend. We need to be a little bit less serious in our communication, because it is really difficult to be serious when you are working in your pajamas. So it is, people also are going to respond better to things that are fun, that are more edgy. So I think you can really start playing with the content, with words, with videos. This is really the time to do that. And of course, test it, maybe do A/B testing. The second thing, you need to be very personal and really hyper personalize your message. So really segment well your database and create messages that would be relevant for that audience, because as I mentioned, we really are competing for their attention. So we saw a few good examples last week from SmartLink, for example. I got an email from James, who's sitting at home like me and is spending time with his dog, and the picture coming soon. So I thought that was a pretty cool opening of an email. And we're getting those things now, but who knows, maybe next week it will be it won't be a brilliant idea anymore. So really pay attention to what's happening. Also, it's important to prepare in your message something that would be actually relevant for your client. So if we're sending a campaign to an HR manager, mention internal communication, e-learning, maybe policies, something that is really relevant for that role. And also, stay positive. As I mentioned, nobody wants to talk about the virus anymore. Everybody wants to get something that is of value. Offer something maybe for free. Offer a link to a thought leadership piece that you wrote. If you didn't have time to write it, there are definitely some other tips that you could do, and definitely offer to help. Don't be overly selling. So those are, I think, tips that we should follow now. But as I mentioned, let's watch the situation and let's stay relevant, because that is going to be the most important. And then there is also a big aspect of communication, which is internal communication. So how we are making sure that our teams are engaged, connected, reassured, motivated, productive, efficient, and all those things. And we see HR managers and IT managers, leaders around the world, really doing everything they can in making sure that their teams are connected and happy. And we could see lots of cool ideas that companies are implementing now. So for example, SDL is doing fitness classes online. Many companies are doing virtual drinks or virtual birthday parties or any of the happy hours and lunches. So this is all great, and that really helps build the spirit. But at the same time, we have to be mindful again of the time, because if we pack our days with all those calls and video calls, we're now not going to have any time left to be productive. And if we pack those days for our workforce with those calls, we're only going to build their anxiety, because they're not going to be able to finish their work on time. And finishing work on time and having those set hours, I think it's also very crucial, because all of us, we live, we eat, we sleep, and we work in exactly the same space. Some people only live in a small studio. They don't even have conditions or a comfortable working space. So we really need to be very mindful of that time. And for example, make sure that we don't communicate with our internal teams during lunch breaks, knowing, of course, that lunch breaks in different countries are at different hours traditionally. We also don't communicate after 6 p.m. So this is really crucial right now when we are all locked down at home. And finally, it's the tone of the communication. As with our clients, we need to stay positive, and it's very easy to show how stressed we are or anxious we are right now. So if you feel this way, of course, as a manager, as an employee, just step back, cut the communication, and come and start communicating again when you are calm, because your feelings, your anxiety could be very easily passed to your colleague, and there's really no opportunity to deal with those situations face to face anymore. So those are a few tips that we see, of course, in our own companies and that our clients are facing right now. And I think looking at it from our own perspective gives us some good ideas of how we can help, support, and assist our clients right now, because I really believe that there's a huge opportunity for the localization and the communications industry right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabina. So no more jokes about toilet paper, right? Yes, and now we have some time to answer the questions. We have some, of course.
I have a question for Sabina.
Kostya, go ahead.
Sabina, what's your experience with messages that are not about virus? Right? Everyone's talking about COVID. At this time, have you seen any statistics, like if you put a normal message out there, something completely from the professional world, not about what's going on? Do you even look at it, or is it completely impossible to get through because of all the information epidemic?
Okay, that's actually a very good question, because I had this experience today. I got an email from Marketo asking me about some ideas for implementation of Marketo with our teams. Sorry. So this is obviously an email that they were been sending for months. But who is implementing Marketo now? Companies are not doing it anymore. Sorry. Wow, like Leo, I had a coughing issue. But I'm fine. I'm all fine.
No, you should be fine.
So basically, that message is not relevant anymore. And I would say that we are really competing against so much information. We need to stay hyper relevant now. And this is the best marketing practice. And actually, I think that this whole experience is only going to make us better, because suddenly we're going to learn how to be more concise in our messaging, how to be more up to date, how to be more relevant, even in our teams. Do we need 1 hour to talk? Or maybe we can reduce it to 15 minutes and be more concise. So I think this is going to be actually a great lesson for all of us, how to focus.
I take this answer as a no.
Yes, it's no.
So, and we have a question about reducing translators' rates, because we have a lot of people wanting to become a remote translator now. And I guess that the competition is going to be tough now. So in these crisis times, what do you think? Will we have all the rates getting lower and lower? And what is your maybe forecast about the situation?
Okay, let me start if you do not object. I have not just an opinion, I have a message for you. Because, of course, we talk to the colleagues, and of course, it's unavoidable and inevitable at the times of crisis. Everybody is going to do that. But there are a couple of things that we need to take into account. Unless huge economic transformations are going to take place, which honestly I doubt, I mean long term. I'm not talking about the nearest couple of months. There are two things here that we've evidenced in the industry. First of all, we've already noticed the erosion of competent translators in the industry, because people couldn't earn decent money and they were leaving the industry and leaving it to half professionals or non-professionals who just do not know enough about it and are ready to get whatever rate they're being paid just to kind of get a fresh start. So it's already been a problem, because globally, of course, you can start like that, you can pay lower rates, but at the end, your end customer gets something substandard. And finally, people get dissatisfied, and their level of dissatisfaction can vary. Sometimes it's a tragedy. Sometimes people just laugh. So my message, however controversial it is like that. The industry, both for the companies and for the freelancers, is somewhere close to the bottom rates. We have already reached that bottom even before the crisis. So I would humbly, and not too humbly, suggest to all of you not to lower your rates as far as you are a professional. Of course, there could be a short period of time when non-professionals who are ready to work for a song will occupy your place, but it will not be there forever. They will not become professionals overnight or within a month. They will not provide the same level of work. So the thing is, I would say also self-respect. That is, you should not go beyond something that is below, say, the official level of poverty or something. So I would be very conservative. And in terms of the Association of Language Companies, we've already published a similar message on the website. We said that, guys, we will not be paying freelancers less because we are already at the bottom. So whatever happens, we need to keep the professional level of the industry, because otherwise it will be deteriorating very quickly, and our clients will feel that. Second, we will be sending the same message to clients. Of course, it's a great time to cut budgets, but be aware, this is not for free. This is not something where you can easily squeeze it. It's not an oil well. It's something different. So in a sense, the message is, if you're a real professional, if there is value in what you're offering, just do not be so eager to lower your rates dramatically. There could be some temporary discounts. There could be, and these are also discounts, just some payment delays, because some companies have purely formal bureaucratic problems with paying. So European companies, no paperwork done on time and all that stuff. This is already a discount. If you are paid not in 45 days, but in 90 days, this is already a discount. So I would say that we will need to survive, but this is not exactly the time to lower your rates if you're a real professional, be it a company or a freelancer.
Okay, Leonid, thank you. So, anyone else? Sabina?
This is this is exactly the same discussion which we're also having with copywriters, with editors, with designers, and we are actually expecting those rates. I mean, I'm expecting as a marketing manager those rates to be lowered down, because there will be lots of freelancers in the market available to work on all those projects. So I totally agree with you, but at the same time, as a professional, as a marketing professional, I'm expecting those rates to go down. And I think that this is a conversation we're going to have with our clients.
And Konstantin? Oh, yes.
Okay. Basically, that's that, right? The law of the market. You can try to protect your rate as you go, but there's always the objective law of the market. If there are 20 people to choose from, and you're the most expensive, you really need to give a strong reason to continue working with you rather than someone else. So the scarcity power is moving towards buyers, and you'll have more say in the conversation. So the smaller the buyer is, the faster they'll press you for it. But the bigger the buyer is, the deeper they'll make it go down. Bad time to be a professional, right? What do you think, Leonid?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kostya. And we have a question: which subject areas will reduce its translation volumes a lot? And which industries may give more volume to translate? I mean, actually, it was kind of obviously we will have some reduction on luxury goods, but Kostya says it's not. So, what do you think? Will we have some maybe more volume from pharmacy only, or about medical equipment, or we will have some other subjects to translate? So
I think I already covered it in my presentation, but perhaps Leonid and Sabina could chip in and provide their input. Sabina, you're working in regulated industries. Any change there?
No, not at all, actually. I remember when I used
You're
to
a
work
big
for.
company.
Yes, because we were working on the content that needs to be translated. So I remember in 2008 when I used to work in New York at that time for our Donley, a big communications leader, the biggest printer in the world. There were teams that they were playing video games on our floors because they had nothing to do, or they were playing ball between desks. We were there in our office until 1 a.m. every day because we were translating on the bankruptcy papers. We were doing all the Lehman Brothers, like you name it, without even knowing what we were reading, what was going through through our hands. So it is really the time for compliance work, and also I believe it's time for communications, because we all need to communicate. Our clients need to communicate, and they need to over communicate. We might see some shifts in their budgets, but definitely communications is not going to suffer. And of course, what I'm seeing, that some budgets for some campaigns that were, let's say, planned last year are now being put on hold, and that money is spent on some other campaign. And it's very similar to a situation. I was very lucky to meet the CMO, or the chief storytelling officer of United. You probably remember a few years ago, there was this big scandal with United. There was a passenger on the plane that was asked to leave. I mean, it was a big scandal. And that lady, the chief storytelling officer, has just started. So she was working on a campaign about new menus that they're preparing. The campaign had to be put on the side, and now it was all about the crisis management. So I think our clients are reacting to the current situation. They might put some budgets on the side. I hope we're going to hear about from them about those ongoing projects quite soon, when situation normalizes, because we all need something else than just talking about the coronavirus.
Well, I would like to attract your attention to the fact that there are short-term things like coronavirus or special medical equipment or some emergency actions, and there are long-term things that we should be thinking about, because, I mean, it's not about coronavirus. I mean, sooner or later, we'll get over it. So I'll tell you that, actually, if you remember one of the classic guys from the automotive industry, long time ago, Leonid, his father actually taught him that during the crisis times, and he was talking about the Great Depression in the US, there are three things that people still consume and where there is, minimal impact, whatever crisis we have. Imagine, there are three things. Which ones do you think? So the first one is food. The second one is health services and medicine. Which is the third one?
News.
No, wrong. Nobody cares about news. I hate them, especially during COVID crisis, because actually they're repeating every 5 minutes, and you know that. So the thing is, the third thing is entertainment. At that time, it was cinema, it was magazines and books, not newspapers. In our times, it's streaming, that is, videos, movies and series, and games. So these are the industries that will grow and that notice an incredible growth during crisis times. Streaming has grown dramatically all around the world because people are confined to their homes. And that's the industry where we will see absolutely no decrease. Actually, I think it will be an increase in their production because people will realize how important they are, especially when you are actually staying at home. And I would say that our own experience shows that all clients dealing with not marketing, because marketing budgets, Sabina is absolutely correct. Marketing budgets, they're being reallocated. It's not that they're not spending the money, but they're changing the message and the campaign and the area every week. But with entertainment, they'll be actually infusing money there. And that's what we noticed. They have to move home, they have to work from home, but they're trying to keep all the release times exactly as they were planned because they really need to do it right now. So that's the area where you should go. And that's why I'm saying voiceovers, subtitling, game and media related translation, some technical skills that make it possible for you to help these companies release and prepare and develop their media as soon as possible. And we haven't noticed any delays or any budget reductions in these two areas, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have some other question. Any special advices related and specified only to translation industry, please? So it's for Leonid and Sabina. So Leonid.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate because that's exactly what I was saying. So first of all, try to explore, if you haven't done it earlier, try to explore the opportunities related to media translation, just as I said. And it's not just the voiceovers or the subtitling or just the translation of games. By the way, by far, not every technical translator can translate games, by any means, because you need to know the story, especially with epic games. And just think about it. There may be 5 or 7 releases, and this is the next one. Somebody is producing an echo there. And I think it's not myself. Yes, thank you. So the thing is, imagine when you're translating them, what you need to know is, for instance, the name and the history of a particular actor in episode 2, because you are translating episode 5, and it should be consistent. It should be a similar character with a similar, say, grumpy voice, bad temper and everything, but you need to know that when you are translating. So that requires a lot of special knowledge. If you want to explore it, but you should have perfect language skills. I mean, really perfect language skills, not like if you're translating health or medical or technical. And you need to love it. I mean, otherwise you will not actually survive, or you will not be successful. The second thing is, try to think of all the adjacent areas, like creating graphics, doing design. All those entertainment companies, they need this in huge amounts, and they are only outsourcing more. They're trying to reduce the fixed costs, especially at the time of crisis, and they are outsourcing more of this work to everyone who's qualified, and you need to be qualified. Prepare screenshots, do graphics, do design, explore these things, and think of what works best for you and where you have the best prospects.
Yeah, the terminology database for Marvel universe is probably bigger than Volkswagen terminology database. Right? It's a very complex area. I agree with you, Leonid.
The problem is, it's not just a database. I mean, the way you need to keep up with the terminology, you need to keep up with the whole description of the character, as I said. Whether it's an old person or a young person, or it's grumpy or, say, cheerful or whatever, and you need to know the storyline, because sometimes the characters disappear in episode 2 and reappear 5 years later in episode 7. Just think of Star Wars. So the thing is, it requires a lot of knowledge, and that is why it's not so easy to replace those people with some amateurs. Which means better rates for you.
Thank you. And now Sabina's turn.
Well, Leo gave such an excellent answer, covering all different services and new capabilities that we should look after. That I could add something about what you should do from the marketing perspective, or rather, how you can reach out to your clients and how can you grow your business. So the one thing that what we look at in marketing is always at our client segmentation. So buying centers, buyer personas. Many of us are working even with global companies that have so many different departments we could work with. But I think this is really the time to analyze who we have in our database, do an account mapping, and see with whom we're already talking, and really start I know that this was an idea we always had, cross-selling, upselling, but this is really the time to work on those relationships, and thinking like what else we can offer to an HR department, to a legal department, maybe HR department in a different country. So really exploring that network, but of course offering always something of value and offering help. And those messages that we're getting this week are about, I'm here stranded in the house as you are with my dog, with trying to learn how to play guitar in an online course. I'm here to help you, and here are some ideas how I can help you. And those are, and here you prepare it. But really, it has to be relevant, and you have to spend some time on the research. But as Leo mentioned, now you have finally the time. Do it.
And I have another piece of advice, if you allow me. Yeah, probably I'm too talkative, but once again, by the way, this hat, I'm also in all FaceTime meetings, I'm trying to entertain the clients, because I mean, everybody is trained, but if they see me in this hat, maybe it cheers up their day a little bit. And that's exactly what I'm advising all the personnel. But the important thing in our times, and that's exactly what Sabina and Konstantin mentioned, that is, there will be attempts at significant cost reductions and cost cutting. With big corporations, they have a lot of inertia, but it will happen. But you can actually put it to your advantage, however controversial it sounds. And I'll tell you why. Because many of these big corporations that you couldn't even approach in previous life were working with huge translation companies like, everyone knows, Lionbridge, SDL, Transperfect, whoever. Of course, these companies are expensive. They sold them these services at rates much higher than small and mid-sized agencies offer. So one of the avenues these companies will explore of cutting costs and at the same time keeping the same volumes is going down the food chain to the next link. That is, going to strong, reputable, solid regional or smaller providers and ensuring they get the same level of service, the same volumes at lower costs. And this is one of the avenues they will be exploring in the coming months. So, just as Sabina said, explore new opportunities in the market. They've never been there. You couldn't even approach these guys. Maybe this is the time you should give it a second try, because they will be thinking of cutting costs. And if you have a good message proving that you're operational, that you're efficient, that you provide good quality, that you provide certain scalability, this is important, and at a lower rate than your huge brother in the industry, you have a chance.
Sabina, I have a question for you. It's my second question to you today, no? So
third.
My third. That's too many. I'm probably sitting on this. Look, what Leonid just said, that you get an opportunity to entertain the person on the other side. You get to be on the level with a bigger corporation.
Yes.
You're the person here working in a corporation, right? You're in a corporate environment. And what I heard these days is that because everyone's in the same boat, everyone's sitting at home, not in a shiny office. Yes. The corporation CEO is in the same space as the corporation intern. What do you think? How can people use that time for career advancement? Are there any tips to get friendly with the boss who is resting or being strained during those times? And they just need a human touch. Can different kind of people who have been not noticed before suddenly become the VP of everything in the company? Mm-hmm. What would be the top two things they should do?
Yes, great. So this is actually an excellent question, and there are two. Let me give you my answer in two parts. So first of all, yes, we should be communicating, we should be networking, and we should be reaching out to our friends and family that we haven't heard from in years. And this is what's happening. I mean, I have so many people contacting me now that I haven't seen for even 10 years. And that's a good practice. And the CEO, as any leader...
I'm your sister you never knew about now. Share your money with me.
Yes, or there's a, yeah, I'm writing to you from Nigeria. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
But
the thing. Right?
but let's also take advantage of the situation when people actually want to communicate, and your CEO and your manager is very much aware how important it is to communicate. So he will actually make sure to respond to your message. So this is a situation that you never had before, when you can actually network with everyone. And I'm also thinking, my birthday is in April. Am I going to do a Zoom birthday and finally invite all those people that could never come because they live on different continents? I mean, the opportunities are just endless. But the second part of your question, you ask about how to make a career. And it is a moment, like any moment of crisis. It's a moment when you can see leaders, and you see some leaders who are actually not doing their job properly. And we can talk, I mean, we all have some experience being placed in the countries where we are, right? So anyway, there is a situation for anybody in the office who could step up and take a responsibility, because a responsibility can be only taken and not given, and really show as a leader in the situation of a crisis and do something exceptional. That could be excellent customer service, or excellent communication with your team, with your colleagues. Everything that we do now and the responsibilities we assume will really help us in our careers. Yesterday in the Salesforce interview that I really recommend you to listen to, the Salesforce webinar with Sheryl Crow, the speaker was actually mentioning a situation in her foundation. There's a lady who's a bookkeeper, and she's so excellent now in managing the situation. She's going to be the president of that foundation when things get back to normal. And if you ask her a few months ago if she would be ready for that role, she would not even dream about that. So there's an opportunity for all of us. And as I say, responsibility can be only taken, not given. So take it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Leadership.
Yeah.
I think we've arrived at the end of the question.
Yes, and so we have just last question, one more question. And guys, if you have just more things to ask, you need to email us, or maybe leave a message on the Facebook, and we will maybe forward all the messages to our experts. And the last question is, how can machine translation, adaptive neural, it can improve our productivity these days in crisis, and how can we use it efficiently and cut costs? I think Leonid is the best one to answer this question. Maybe, yeah.
Well, honestly, first of all, I apologize. Maybe I'm not politically correct, but this question has nothing to do with the current situation. It's an eternal question. And personally, I've delivered multiple presentations on that with all the details. So during the quarantine, machine translation related productivity boost is no different from the boost you get when you're not under quarantine. So nothing changes here. I'm sorry, it's probably a disappointment. Of course, every company tries to use it wherever possible, be it on the client end or on the supplier end, and that's fine and that's good, as far as there are several conditions that you comply with. So first of all, you need to make sure that this is pre-agreed. Somebody is producing an echo, I'm sorry. And it's not myself, because I'm wearing in-ear. Yes. Yeah, thank you, Irina, because I was hearing myself. So the thing is, first of all, you need to make sure that everyone is clear and transparent on that. You never apply machine translation if your client is unaware or haven't approved it, or is, because neural machine translation sometimes produces huge mistakes, huge, once again, much worse than the bad translator does. So of course we try to edit after it. But it's very important that you make your client aware of the whole way of production, because that's the only way how you'll avoid unpleasant surprises at the end when they see that. One thing is, they do realize it's lower cost, it's faster, but certain screw-ups are, say, possible or unavoidable. The other thing, it's a nasty surprise for them. Second, it's not relevant for all subject matters. It's not relevant for all language pairs, so use it wisely. Third, nowadays, where most of the translation cycle is agile, it doesn't work that well for small standalone volumes where the text is not contiguous. Machine translation, especially neural machine translation, is really dependent on the context. So the smaller the piece, the more, say, separate it is, the less context you have, the worse machine translation is. Moreover, if you need to translate only 30 words, machine translation will not help you. It will still take a similar amount of time. It only helps when the volume is noticeable. So just keep that in mind. So try not to overuse it and know where to use it. But a couple of things I wanted to mention that are really important. So first of all, if you're still working within a team, I'm just adding to the topic we already touched. Please remember, you should try to imitate the work atmosphere. So in our case, we explicitly asked all the teams that we have to conduct at least 2 calls. One of them is in the morning, the other one closer to the end of the workday. And we strongly encourage them to have not just a regular conference, but a video conference, because they need not forget the faces of their colleagues. They need to have this team spirit and the feeling that you are all there, that you are working, that things are more or less normal, that we're operational. It boosts your spirit. Plus, we figure out who is sick, who is working, who is feeling well, who is taking care of something. These are very short calls, and Sabina mentioned it correctly. We should not over-communicate. That is, in our case, we require these to be 10 to 15 minutes long. It's sufficient, and at the end of the day, you kind of summarize what's happening, you figure out what's remaining, you figure out what you're going to do and what else needs to be done today, despite, say, the relatively obscure hour. The second thing, with the boss, guys, I'm trying to answer everyone, especially during these times, but do not try to over-communicate with the CEO. Remember that you may not be the only one who's trying to communicate with the CEO, and the CEO has a limited bandwidth. So what I really value, and in my case, what's a plus? Because we're sitting at home, we are more flexible. So I had a team, and we had an urgent change in a contract with a potential client that they requested, and of course, turnaround is everything. Turnaround is absolutely everything. So we needed to do it fast, and we needed to have an online meeting. And when they were ready to communicate at 10 p.m. their time, I truly appreciated that. So if you want to impress your boss, just impress them with your work, not with your spirit uplifting messages or endless communication. That would probably work better.
Thank you, Leonid, for taking the brunt of the conversation for us.
Thank you so much. And as for in text, we have our kind of Zoom coffee breaks, so everybody can just join and have their cup of coffee and just to say some words and to remind the faces of colleagues and so on. Sometimes to get acquainted with the kids and dogs and so on. So it's time to sum up, and instead of saying just a goodbye, you can say maybe to say some couple of words to maybe to summarize everything you just told. Just a couple of words of support. And I can see that all my chats are transferring, some good vibes and a lot of hugs and the words of appreciation. Thank you guys that you just get all of you could join this webinar, and you just you gave a lot of information. Just you need to read, you need to listen one more time and analyze and maybe have all these advices taken into your work. Thank you so much. And it's time to say goodbye, and I'm starting from Konstantin.
Thank you very much. We don't do hugs, we do elbow bumps now. It's good to refresh a little bit, and thank you very much, Irina, for putting this together. It's a very nice panel. We had good dynamics, 2 men, 2 women, so good balance here. I think I learned a lot from Sabina and Leonid today.
Yes, and Leonid? Leonid, can you please unmute?
So well, in the US, it's recommended the fist bump. So first of all, stay positive, stay sane, stay healthy, enjoy the small things, try to be flexible, and happy April Fool's Day, it's tomorrow. It's our industrial kind of day.
And Sabina.
Okay, guys, so I'll do this, which apparently means bonjour, so not maybe goodbye, I don't know that sign for it, in French Sign Language. So that's how you can actually communicate now. But also, guys, stay healthy, but creative, relevant, and mindful of everybody's time. And I wish you all the best from Warsaw. Thank you, Irina.
Thank you for all the inspiration you just gave during this webinar. And I don't say goodbye, you can communicate me anytime you want. So I have just a couple of last messages. So goodbye for today. Yeah, I'm muting my team. So yeah, we have our next webinar in a week. So it's gonna be a webinar in Russian about audiovisual translation, and Maria Babkina will represent her speech. So please join us for April 9th at 4 p.m. Kyiv time. And of course, we thank to all our sponsors, because thank you for all your support, and please don't forget to register our event, because you also have an opportunity to get free online for everyone this year. And of course, we hope to see you at UTIConnect-2020, which is going to happen, and we hope it's going to happen during July 2026. So see you guys for our next events. Bye.